to the Adventuring Party for the second week of February 2021. This week, the party know you've had a rough year, so we present some inexpensive ways to enjoy your hobby, whichever hobby that is. The Adventuring Party, discussing tabletop and related gaming the Irish way.
Welcome to the party. I'm Liam.
I'm Shane.
I'm Owen.
And I'm still Savage.
And this week we are here to...
Still January, right?
Well, I don't know when we're recording. Who knows when we're dropping this? Time has lost all meaning these days anyway, so we can't go out and do anything.
And also we can't go out and spend money.
It's true.
But if only we had some way of communicating over the internet, staying at home, and still having fun. That's right, everybody, start podcasting.
We definitely need competition.
We are lucky to live in an age now where I discovered something really shocking the other day, that Gamers World actually have a fully functioning e-commerce website as opposed to a weird placeholder that has stock that they probably don't have anymore.
Oh, wow.
That must be new.
It's pretty new, alright, yeah.
It's been around for 9 months or so. I know I've bought a whole bunch of Goodman Game stuff off them using that. Get it delivered rather than sent to me,
Just for our listeners, Gamers World is probably the biggest role-playing games workshop.
It's the FGL in Dublin City Centre anyway.
And it has played a vital part in bringing communities together, as they have large hosting area for games, and we dearly love them. So anything we say after this is in the spirit of community.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is spending money generally isn't a problem, but I guess what we're here to talk about today is the opposite. You know, I think I'm quite fortunate at the moment, but I know several of my friends aren't. Things are pretty tight. So what we're going to talk about this week is we're going to talk about how to do things on cheap, how to do things free, what resources are out there for you to keep gaming, keep experiencing new things, but on a very tight budget. So who wants to lead us out with that? I know we each have kind of a corner to fight or a suggestion to go with. Who wants to rock us out?
Yeah, a pillar to hold up the heavenly vault of gaming, as you say, when we must be frugal rather than generous.
It's always easy to spend money. It's getting it and keeping it is the hard bit.
Believe me. Well, we've just been through Christmas, and I'm sure we've all had the good fortune of being gifted some gamer stuff as well. So maybe that'll help. We've broken things down a little bit. Scarr, you're going to take us through some of the free online resources, things that you can find out there if you're playing a game or running a game. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That sounded like a yes.
All right, sure. You lead us out then.
Well, I'm just gonna. It's like any tiered marketing presentation. You tell the rubes.
Oh no, not an introduction slide.
Hida, you have some advice for those who want to get their CCG on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And probably a few other things as well. Liam, what corner are you propping up today?
Scrounging.
Get asking around.
That's the Deadlands skill. Scrounging.
And I wanna tell you folks a little bit about maybe things to look out for if you are trying to create oddments and terrain and even miniatures on a budget with the surplus of time on your hands. Right. So who wants to kick off?
Well, sure, I'll dive in, I guess.
Roll D4.
Yeah, we can roll a D4. I can just seize the opportunity and just dive right in. I guess for me, I am in the point of my life where I have collected a large amount of gaming stuff. I'm living with my partner. We have a family here, and so space is at an absolute premium. So I have a whole pile of stuff which has been relegated to my attic, pending sale at a charity auction at a convention. Now, there may not be any conventions for a while, and there haven't been any conventions for a while, so there won't be any charity auctions that said conventions for a good while. And I don't think I'm unique in this position either. So I guess my advice to people would be that hit up people you know. And it may not be as much as they have a whole stack of board games that they're desperate to get rid of. They may just have board games that they have played, and they've played a lot of, and they reckon they won't get any go out of it. But you might have a game that you've played a lot of, and you can just do a swap. I know I've done a few different ways of setting this up with my friends in the past, where we've all gotten together and got a communal spreadsheet, be it Google Docs or whatever, and just put down a list of everything we had, and then done a trade. Now, obviously with the current travel restrictions, that might be a little bit tight. If you're within 5k of each other, maybe you can swing by and pick it up from the garden or something. If you're further afield, then maybe you might have to post them.
Brown paper bag on a park bench somewhere.
Yeah, something. Have a clandestine operation where you drop it off, password. The weather in Moscow is quite clement at this time of year. You're not Red Fox?
I've got piles of stuff. If people are after board games, come talk to me. I've got piles of stuff.
Well, it's kind of funny. Like, we were in the position the other day where Savage was looking for some sleigh stuff, and I now have some sleigh stuff up in the attic. And we were in this weird situation where we were in a reverse haggling.
Yeah, it's funny how hard it is to get Liam to actually take exchange.
I'll give you a bottle of whiskey. I mean, a bottle of beer is fine. I know I can't give you just a bottle of beer for it. I don't want it. It's taking up room. I need to clear space.
It's like Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny trying to give each other a stick of dynamite. So do try and accept the gracious gifts of your peers with some amount of. You don't have to buy them beer or whiskey, but see, maybe pick their brains over something that you might do to pass it on, which is never a bad thing to do. Especially now, there's lots of people out there who could do with a little helping hand. So there's no harm in looking around for some way to pass on.
There's even a lot of Facebook groups as well, and someone will post a game, and they say, I'll take these board games or this much in cash. So you can absolutely just hit those groups up and say, hello, looking for this game, here's what I have, is anybody interested in a straight trade? And that way you can do it with no significant expenditure. You can get your hands on a new game, and somebody else will also get to do the same if you're trading them a game for it.
Yeah, if you're going to go that route, obviously, kind of make sure you're comfortable with the people you're trading with. Take all necessary precautions. Yeah, local is probably better.
Well, people you know is good. The advantage with a lot of these groups is that I see a lot of the same names. I see a lot of the same names popping up, and it seems like there's a good core of people there who, they'll play a game, keep it for a month, play it 3, 4, 5 times, and then they'll trade it on for something else, or they'll trade something else for it. And so there's a good cyclical trade going out of it, and if you think about it, that's good economics and good environmentalism as well. That we're not just getting these board games, buying them, playing them once or twice, and then relegating them to the attic.
Well, I do have a friend who refers to his board game collection as carbon capture. So, but absolutely, if you look at the cost of board games now, at the sort of more involved end of things, the idea that you might only play it 3 or 4 times and then forever have it stowed away is lunacy. So you're absolutely right. It makes more sense, and you're going to have more fun for the money you spent, and you're going to make stronger connections with other people who like and play the kinds of games.
Yeah, I'll post there's a couple of the groups I'm in anyway. I'll post the names of those up on the Discord channel. I think some of them are private, some of them are public. But if you get the name, you can track it down yourself and ask for admission into the group. And if anybody else has any groups that do likewise, I know for me, board gaming is my thing, so that's why I'd be more aware of that kind of thing, but I'm sure there's similar ones for war games and card games and everything else. So if you have those links, pop them up onto the Discord, and we'll circulate them for people so they can get involved. And I know the Dublin crowd, but there may be similar scenes set up in Cork, Galway, wherever you are.
I know I've been hoping for GaelCon to run their kind of bring it by auction, so I could upload a bunch of stuff and just guys, clear out some stuff out. They're fine games, I'm just not going to play them anymore. And no GaelCon has been a It's been a trial. It's been a trial without that.
Oh my god, GailCon 2022 is probably just going to be one gigantic pile of board games. But bring in Bystand will take up half the trade hall.
Yeah, it'll be just like, yep, just here's a bunch of stuff you guys probably missed out on, being sold for pennies on the pound.
It'll be like Woodstock.
Woodstock. If Woodstock was a crazy bring and buy sale with people going, oh my god, that's a lost treasure, it'll be like Storage Wars. That's what they should actually do. Everything should be in a black plastic sack. You just bid on stuff.
Well, actually, I've seen that. That could be a good strategy. I've seen that for books. I've seen a lot of markets and stuff that you go up and there's a book wrapped in. They have the genres marked off on them, and they're color coded. And you go up and you pay whatever, £3, £5, and you get a book of whatever genre. You've no idea what it is. And you just go away with it. So that could be an idea, actually. Just wrap up a bunch of games in some brown paper and have a fixed price for €10. This is a family-centered turn-based game. Okay, cool. Give us it.
So, Liam, actually, just on that note, I mean, used books are one thing. Covers are on. No rashers used as bookmarks kind of thing. But how well do board games tend to pass from hand to hand? Do they get looked after? Do people?
It depends very much on. I know myself. Even I have some board games. Usually, what you do is you'll post a rating. So you'll say, this played twice, this as new, this well used, this some damage on the corners, and it's your expectations for a trade would then be measured on that. I know I have a few games that I have played the hell out of, and the boxes are ratty, but most of the parts are in good condition. The rule books might be fairly dog-eared and stuff like that. If I were to trade them with somebody, I would obviously set my expectations lower for them. But I've similarly have some games that I played once or twice, and I didn't really enjoy them. They were okay, or there's even one or two that I played. I was like, right, I never want to play that again. And they're in great nick, but so obviously I'd set them as a higher value.
Yeah, I have a copy of the 25th anniversary edition of Survive that my infant son may have halfway through the volcano, and I'm sort of wondering, how should I describe this? Pre-digested,
Just
incomplete.
put on, a toddler had a go at it.
Oh, I don't think I'd ever get rid of it. He has too much fun with the little wooden monsters and sea monsters and things.
That's just adding authentic weathering to that volcano.
He's the monster, as it turns out. Right, let's rotate around the table then. Who fancies having another stab or throwing in their piece?
I think we're sort of going down in value terms. I think we started with swapping, now we're on to recycling. Is that correct, Eoin?
Or regurgitating, depending.
No. I'm talking about CCGs. Like, if you want to get into a CCG and you're interested in trying it out, but don't want to spend a lot of money or any money, the person you talk to is someone who's already in. And if you go, I have a genuine interest in trying stuff out, I want to see if I want to play this a few times before I actually play it. Talk to that person. That person will usually be like, yeah, man, it'll be awesome to have some more players. Come here, I'll teach you how to play a bit. And then you might say, could I get some, are there any kind of common decks or pauper decks around that I could just get off you? If you came to me and said, Owen, can I have a deck for X CCG that you currently play or have played in the past? I'd be like, yeah, no problem. I'll whip something up with a commons and away you go. I've got drafts of the stuff. I've got boxes of commons. I can whip you something up. It may not be as good as a fully constructed deck, but it will be playable. It will work, and away you go. And I've done that a number of times. It's actually one of the big advantages of CCGs over LCGs. I can't do that with LCG because I only get exactly as many cards as I need. I don't have any spare ones unless I literally buy spare full price boxes to break down to make decks to give away to people. And I'll be very reluctant to do that because I'll be like, God, I might not get those cards back. Whereas with commons, I'm like, I don't care, take the commons away. But I'm taking these commons off you, so I do not care.
I definitely remember a couple of it's the one with the planeswalkers and stuff, magic tournaments, where literally there's just a big box of lands and stuff in the middle of the floor as people are just going, junk.
Yeah, it's like you come talk to me and like I was looking at like there's a new CCG I'm getting into, and I was looking at the prices of cards, and there are people, because the starters are sold out and you can't get them, people are literally bundling together commons and selling them for $10 on eBay. Like here's a full deck for X character on eBay, and hey, there's 4 rares in it as well. They're grand rares, they're not great rares, but they're they're goodish rares for the deck. So if you want to, I want to try this card game out, talk to someone already in the system, and they'll be like, yeah, no problem, we can build your common deck. Like honestly, it's usually more effort to sort through the commons than it is to build the deck, than it is to in terms of price for building the deck. And especially if you can't get a starter. Because usually what they'll tell you is, well, get a starter. Now, some games have very good starters, where you get a fully constructible deck.
I seem to recall Yu-Gi-Oh! Had decent enough starters as well.
So, some games used to have really good starters. Other games are just a pile of cards. Like Magic used to be just literally, starters were literally a random assortment of cards. They weren't really constructible. Nowadays, if you go and buy a Magic starter deck, it is usually a pre-constructed deck with very little randomness in it, or at most maybe they'll throw 2 boosters in or something so you can open something.
Well, I think a lot of the manufacturers now have turned around and gone, okay, well, this isn't just an opportunity to get somebody in, it's kind of an opportunity to teach them to play as well.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of the time the starter decks this is a pre-constructed deck, which is often, sometimes you get a 2-player starter, this is 2 pre-constructed decks, which give you a taste of the gameplay of the game. And that's great. That's a great way for people to get in, to try it out, to see if they like the gameplay loop, or if they're willing to, okay, now I'm willing to scale up to buying more. Because the thing is, CCGs, you can spend an awful lot of money if you want, so making the initial buy-in cheap is a good thing. First taste being free or very cheap is just an excellent strategy.
It's worked for drug dealers for so long.
The DBZ CCG, which came out about 5 years ago, I bought 2 starters from, and they were completely unusable. Literally. The starters, basically each style of fighting in it was its own deck, so you could have a blue deck or a red deck or a black deck, but you could only have blue, red or black cards in those decks. And the starters were literally one of each of 3 different sets you could get together. Some red cards, some blue cards, some orange cards. They were completely non-usable. To get a actual full play set of the starter cards, you had to buy 6 starters and hope you get a fully matched set of each of the different parts. So you could then construct 6 starters from that. It was the maddest thing I've ever experienced in recent times. I was like, these are not playable starters. These are nothing. This is not usable. I have no idea what they're doing. It was crazy.
Presumably all those cards are in some sort of commons bin now.
Yes, they're sitting there because these are useless. So yeah.
So is there any scope for playing any of this stuff online as well? Like, I know some of the things have gone online. Could you... can you go begging, or can you get a simple starter deck in a lot of the online versions?
So, only a few games have a full online presence. Like Magic has a Planeswalkers app. You can play on your PC or your iPad or whatever. If you want to play a lesser supported game, what you'll probably have to do is buy a copy of Tabletop Simulator. Now, if you're looking for value in terms of playing board games, traditional gaming online, Tabletop Simulator is the best value you can get, because a huge number of Kickstarters, board games, CCGs, put together a Tabletop Simulator module that you can just go into and play, dozens, hundreds of different games, So if you go like, okay, I want to play I want to play Flesh and Blood. I was like, okay, well, just buy Tabletop Simulator. That's the bit that costs you money. And then you can just install it and play in Tabletop Simulator. Basically, find the oak. You need to fiddle around to learn the controls a little bit, but it's pretty impressive. Some of the ones you have to do everything manually. Other ones basically put in shortcuts where it'll be like, okay, press setup, and it automatically sets up the board for you. So that's a great way to play some board games. Great way to play some CCGs. And if you really want to play, you can play online.
And I guess groups. I guess the other thing then be what groups could you go to go begging, but that would probably very, very much vary based on the game, wouldn't it?
Yeah. If you go and look, if you went on to, a lot of work is being done on Discord at the moment. So if you were interested in X, you would find the local Discord and go, guys, I'm interested in a common deck. Is there anyone selling them or giving them away? And if you know people, it'll be just easy. Yeah, we'll send you some cards. If you don't, it might be, sure, well, I'll put together some decent cards for a tenner if you want some, and away you go. And that's mostly for the bother of shipping it and putting them together, So there's plenty of scope for going online and finding your local community. Now, at the moment, it's tricky because you can't, literally go into a shop, but you can certainly ask around, and you can look for a Facebook page or a Discord and just go, guys, where does X happen? Where are people playing X, And that's really the best you can do.
Yeah, and I like the points you've made about the surplus of cards that exists in these communities and how they can serve as a great ramp to get new players in. I think you're right in that there's lots and lots of players who would be just so happy to get someone else to play with or just encourage to start or explore a game. And for the cost of, here's a bunch of cards I don't use anyways. It's little acts of generosity like that can really sort of boost someone's engagement with the community and make them feel welcome. Back in the day, I played a few CCGs, the big ones, but I was always impressed with how willing and ready CCG players, even at tournaments and competitions where they were only meeting people for the first time, but they were so ready to help you get the last couple of cards for a deck, even on a loaner, so that you play the tournament and play your best. And I made so many friends that way. Now I don't play CCGs anymore, but I'll never forget kind of the generosity of players at conventions who were like, I know you through a friend, but here are 3 incredibly valuable cards that you'll need for your deck, and I'll see you at the end of the tournament. And it's it speaks to the character of those who play. Okay, so moving off of the choir boys and angels of the CCG community to those murder hobos that inhabit the nefarious dens of scum and villainy that are the RPGs. Scarr, would you like to tell us a little bit about how to get by for free in the cutthroat world of grift and graft that is the RPG?
Well, it's actually not that hard, assuming you have the internet bandwidth to download PDFs or look something up on your browser. See, RPGs have really come around to the concept of just giving away 90% of the core of their game for free, and then just sort of making money on goodwill and overpriced supplements. But yeah, I think we really do have to just give a big round of applause to Ryan Dancy, the great huckster of early 2000s RPG thing, and the pioneering of the just give away your game for free movement, just sabotaging it from the top down.
He is still working people.
What did he make?
Still occasionally shows up in RPG stuff with some scam, and everyone buys into it. It's amazing.
Okay, you're going to have to give me and the listeners some background on this guy,
so
Scarr.
Ryan Dancy
hold on. I'll go with Scarr here.
Well, Owen probably tell the thing more enthusiastically and slightly less accurately, but basically Ryan Dancy somehow managed to talk his way to being in charge of the licensing for the D20 system when Wizards of the Coast acquired D&D, decided to make a 3rd edition because, well, 2nd edition was almost dead at that point. and they were going to revolutionize the RPG industry. And he sold the idea to the people in charge that if they gave away their money, their rules for free in the System Reference Document, or SRD, then that would encourage third-party people to make supplements for D&D for them, and they would not have to invest in supplements, and thus people would start making product from them, thus creating a feedback loop where WotC would sell more core books, because even though the rules were free, people still wanted to buy books. And for the most part, this worked. A lot of the stuff that the third party people made was trash, and some of it is still insulating the walls of gaming stores around the world to this day. But it worked for WotC, and the System Documents idea thus propagated out into the game space, and more, especially as the indie scene built up, more and more people were like, well, giving away your game book for free can very often improve the economics of people playing your game to the point where you've created enough community that people will spend money on your other products. I think the modern master of this really has to be Kevin Crawford, the OSR aficionado that I've talked about many times, and that he has really made a huge amount of thing about giving everything but the last 30 pages of his books away for free as PDFs, and thus people looking for free solutions will gravitate to his product, and this will create the community of people who support his game enough that people actually do buy the full price thing, even if it's just some extra rules at the back.
So that might be the kind of thing where your players would have the book for free, but maybe the GM wouldn't buy it, and then you'd be like, sure, I'll throw a tenner their way for this module as well.
Yeah, that seems to work, and Pathfinder certainly done the same thing. Pathfinder inherited the SRD model and didn't seem to have any problem just doubling down on it. In fact, to the point where many of their supplements also made it onto the Pathfinder First Edition SRD, and you would see even the third-party stuff would end up on the Pathfinder SRD because they decided to make it open content. So people would hear about and be able to use most of the content of a book for Pathfinder, but like it would also raise awareness. Oh, this is I can't remember any third party Pathfinder people on the top of my head, but their names were on the SRD saying this class was designed by such and such.
Well, I think that was also, people might have called a foul if Pathfinder, which was largely a reskin of 3.5, got very touchy about their IP. Like, what are you talking about? 90% of your game's ripped off from this other game.
Ripped off is such a harsh term. A flowering of
repackaged. Much like the bug man in Men in Black, coming out going, "Arr!"
So, anything you want to point to in particular, Scarr, in terms of places to go looking for the freebies?
It would be remiss of me not to mention that even 5th Ed still retains this to a small extent by putting out basic rules for free. So you can get all of the working rules of 5th Ed D&D on their website, along with the basic versions of 4 classes. You're, enough to play, certainly, and certainly enough to play the introductory box sets.
And certainly enough for your players to play if they don't want to or can't invest in a rule book themselves. They could just, okay, well, you happy playing the base fighter? Absolutely. Okay, well, there you go. You got the base fighter. Off you go.
But yes, I also want to, again, point out Kevin Crawford, who has free versions of Stars Without Number, for SciFi, several different takes on old school D&D. One particular one I just bought myself because the system works. I actually got a copy myself. Is Scarlet Heroes, which is his method of making so one first level character can get through a dungeon designed for 4 first level characters and survive the way through, in theory. And he also has Godbound, his great Exalted ripoff. Okay, we're maybe overusing the word ripoff.
I've heard Godbound described favorably on its own merits. So, see, I'm coming from a creative.
Just do what Hollywood does and call it an homage.
Well, exactly the point I was going to make. It is important that we recognise that the great artists steal.
Also, you could also point out that no one is, not even the most diehard Exalted fans, are actually very invested in the Exalted mechanics.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true at all. There's tons of people super into. There are hardcore Exalted players who look to play the game properly. It's just that the game's madness. Like if you look at the old, you've never seen Paranoia Combat, which is how you actually end up playing Exalted, where basically in Exalted Second Ed you had to have a combo. Like if you actually game the game out properly, it's like, okay, I can't have any combo that I'm ever going to use that doesn't have a perfect defense in it. That's an attack combo. Yeah, it still needs a perfect defense. Because if I initiate my attack combo, the other guy can then, I can't perfect defense myself on my turn until my next turn because I started a combo. So I've activated a combo. Okay, I can't use any charm that isn't part of the combo until the start of my next turn. So the game actually becomes about constructing a paranoia combo that defends you against everything, and then putting your offensive combo into your offensive stuff into the combo. It's completely mad.
Maybe what I said is, maybe I shouldn't have said that they didn't care about the mechanics, but maybe they said that the mechanics didn't care about them. But there's other examples of free RPGs out there. Fate has an SRD. You can still go back and find the Pathfinder or even the 3.5 SRDs. Although the 3.0 SRD appears to have just disappeared off the face of the universe. There's the Savage Worlds test drive rules, although I'm not sure if those have been updated to Adventure Edition. And like I said, a lot of the newer premium indie stuff is has things such as Eclipse Phase, the transhumanism RPG, has a free version, and Ironsworn, a pretty recent game which has the solo rules in it, so it's sort of designed for personal play.
Would that be lone wolfing, one GM, one player, or?
No. As in, you just this is the mechanics. This is the tables you roll on to see what adventure happens to your character. You get to decide this, and this, and this outcome. So you roll and you decide, and then you journal it. Is generally how these things go these days. I think we had an episode of this. We had an episode of this about a year ago. This phenomenon. Although we were maybe thinking an awful lot more about war games than
solo play, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. Journaling is a big part of the solo RPG experience now. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. The latest big darling was 1,000 Year Vampire, which very much is about writing the diary of your vampire as he slowly forgets all of the good things in his unlife.
So, welcome to our creative writing podcast.
I would do a real diary. What would I do?
Or, of course, the ever popular OC series, The Vampire Diaries, which apparently ditched all the diary stuff. I watched a 2.5 hour breakdown of The Vampire Diaries the other day because that's the world we live in now. And apparently even the writers got sick of the whole diary aspect about a season and a half in.
Yeah, sounds about right.
They wrote in the scene where the vampire diary was thrown into a fire. It's like, right, we're using mobile phones now.
There's also the aspect of getting free material for your RPGs. Generally, you'll find a lot of people recommend going through the process of adapting material, because you can get an awful lot of free material in various sources. Like, for example, like one of the big secrets of the Wizards D&D website is that they still have all of the 3.5 material on their archive server, and it's still freely available. So you can still download about like 2 or 3 dozen adventures that were put up on the Wizards of the Coast website for 3.5. And just, if you're smart enough to adapt them to 5th Ed, you can, or even back adapt them into 1st Ed if you're an OSR person. You can adapt those. You know, this includes like some really old and classic stuff, like they made new versions of White Plum Mountain, Tomb of Horrors, and the infamous Palace of the Silver Princess, which, depending which rumors you were, was originally banned and rebuilt, either because it had provocative bondage art in it, or because the monsters in the provocative bondage art looked like the 2 people who'd bought the company from Gary Gygax.
Oh, I've got to find that now. It's for research purposes.
Total coincidence.
It was a Wild West kind of. You got to remember, at the time, the FBI were raiding game designers' offices. You know, because that's the 90s for you. There was a lot of stuff going on.
There's also some newer material that's been made out relatively free. We've on previous episodes we've mentioned a creator called Scarr, who has been making what he calls teaching dungeons for to help bring across the process of dungeon crawling and old school don't use your dice, use your brain gameplay. So his stuff, Tomb of the Serpent King and such, has quite a bit of attaché. There's also the indie darling combination system and adventure called Lady Blackbird, which is an interesting take on. It's not quite PBTA or Fate, but it's very much grown out of that mold. It's a sort of fixed. The scenario is fixed, but the mechanics. So like, you're definitely playing Lady Blackbird and these 4 other people stuck on a blimp as her cheating husband is chasing them down. But where you go from there is all decided by the players in the moment. So that's the thing. But yeah, like, looking for free RPG material is, there's never been a better time, because the industry has developed to the point where giving stuff away for free is considered very virtuous noblest. Designers are more interested in getting their stuff out there than in immediately profit from it. It's a point where it's very much less about the money than it is about.
You can also see that in the RPG bundles as well. So if you look at what's a bundle of holding? There's an awful lot of RPGs go on there with a large amount of content, and the base level for it is usually very cheap for a lot of stuff. You might have it that you'll get the core rules and 3 or 4 books for the base donation, which might be, I think, it totally depends on how much demand puts these things up higher, but it might be that the base level might be like €5. And then if you pay an extra €5, you might get a whole pile more stuff. And if you're paying an extra €5 again on top of that, you get all of it. And sometimes there can be €200 worth of stuff there for 15 quid. And you can set how much of it goes to the owner of the content, how much of it goes to the website, and how much of it goes to the charity that's being put up there. And you can set those sliders whichever way you want as well. So you can go, well, I don't like charity, give it all to the content owner, or I don't like content owners or this website, give it all to the charity. But like that, they're not making very much money out of this, and sometimes they might even make nothing out of it.
But just having people able to play it is the advantage in itself, because they want people to play the game, get the buzz going, and then that helps them in the long run. The game that never gets played is basically useless, even if you get money out of it. I think that's a pretty healthy attitude to have as a game designer.
I think I could put myself behind that sentiment to the extent that, okay, we've talked about cost of things, but the value of things is perhaps a little different. And as you say, Scarr, it's really important that we play the things that are good for us, and that we play things that elevate us. it's also important that we throw a few quid. So these bundles are great. You'll find an awful lot of stuff that's up there for pay what you want. If it's even $1 or €1 or 50 cents or whatever you've got, throw something to the people who are taking a risk and putting their creative output up there for you to enjoy, because you're almost certainly going to get more out of it than you.
I'd say certainly if you can afford to do so, because if you can afford to do it, then I think people will probably feel less bad if they can't really afford to and they go in with the minimum amount to get the product. It would kind of reward people for good behaviour, for putting the stuff up there available for people at such a low price. And like, if I just took a look at the current one, it's Forbidden Lands from the Fria Liga, the Swedish crowd. I think they're Swedish. Their Forbidden Lands is their own kind of stuff. It looks like it's kind of South American style. But, if you go in with a higher donation, then somebody can go in with a lower donation and they still get something out of it, and the charity gets something out of it. It's a pandemic relief charity, as up there now at the moment.
It's like, the only thing I'd say about that is it's such a lovely box set. You nearly want to buy Forbidden Lands in the box set form, so you can actually play the thing. But in the current format, it's much more difficult for us to meet up. Buying the digital one just makes sense, because one of the things about the current environment is, although we might be a little poorer in cash, we might be a little poorer in terms of like assets, we are now rich in something that people are often short of for gaming, which is time. You can put time into games that you couldn't previously. And there's something to be said for that, the ability to go, actually, I have more time now. I can actually do things like maybe assemble a bunch of minis that I have. Or I have stuff where I could actually play this 80-hour single-person campaign game that I would never play before. So we are rich in a different way, that we should consider the advantages of that.
Okay, I'm going to take that as an opportunity to slide into the driver's seat for the last little bit of this. I'll keep it brief. But so things we can do for cheap or for free around gaming, around our hobbies. We've covered an awful lot of ways to acquire commercial products and semi-commercial products and bits and pieces that people have wanting purpose. My personal sort of corner of gaming that I find most satisfying is making things, and that's often been making terrain or making bits and pieces to enhance games, usually at the tabletop. Now, we, of course, cannot gather together, as gamers often do. But, as Eoin points out, we have time now. This is a time for curation and creation. You didn't have this time before to sit down and organize your campaign to the extent that you really want to do. You didn't have time before to craft up that bespoke terrain that would form the centerpiece for, an epic climax to a campaign. You didn't have the time to get through that backlog of miniatures. You didn't have the time to organize what you already have, to get on top of your game collection, maybe a bit of a winnowing to weed out the things that you're not using that you could profitably pass on or generously help to extend the love of the hobby. So, yeah, there's something that we can't pay for, and that's time. We all get the same amount of it, and it's up to us how we spend it wisely. And there's something to be said for just getting a handle on the hobby. If you feel as a GM that you've been flustered and under pressure, now is the time to get to grips with the rules if you're not very strong on rules, or to read up on the lore so you can answer all those tricky lore questions, or just to take the reins of your own campaign and get it nailed down so that when the players take an unexpected turn, you're ready to go right after them. On the making and doing side, well, it doesn't have to be expensive. I mean, we see an awful lot of expensive packs of miniatures and Kickstarters and the rest, but presumably you have a bunch of stuff already. If you're in the hobby, there's all sorts of stuff. I'm still working my way through the first Reaper Bones Kickstarter, so I still need to paint up a few of those, a lot of those. But now's the time, and it doesn't matter if they're not perfect. Just get them done. As I saw a meme the other day with Jack Sparrow And the British officer saying, "Those are the worst painted miniatures I've ever seen." Jack Sparrow responds, but they are painted. And that's us. We're trying to get by, and hold on, let's get this right.
I did find the greatest investment for me for trying to get a tournament legal Orc Army was a can of green base paint.
There you go.
Pants, gun colour. That's 3 colours. That's tournament legal.
Yeah,
ugly as sin, but 3 colours is tournament legal.
Yeah, so exactly. I'm not trying to conjure up this idea that we all turn out meticulously made terrain or infinitely detailed campaign settings or golden demon worthy armies. But now is the time to catch up, to get on top of what you already have, because essentially you paid for it already. It is free. What you didn't have was the time. And fingers crossed you do now. I know there's plenty of people who are working through this and would desperately love the release of gaming with friends. And let me tell you, I feel that pain. I feel the frustration. So I know I'm not speaking to you. And we're not trying to tell you you're wasting time or you're falling behind. But if you do find yourself where you're twiddling your thumbs and you're looking out the window and you're frustrated because you can't game, there's lots of aspects of the hobby that you can explore, even if you're just a player. Nail down that backstory. Find the artwork that represents your character. Maybe even go onto Hero Forge and just figure out exactly how your character would look.
It's a great time to give it a bash. Because I know a lot of people who don't paint miniatures but want to paint miniatures and are kind of afraid of messing up. But so what? Give it a go. Mess up. Sure, worst comes to worst. Just stick it in a bit of salt and the paint will come off and then you give it another crack.
Blank Shitsu is your friend. If you can't paint, look at Blank Shitsu as a style.
I've seen the first models that I painted and they're a little bit like the Melta Marines. Just too much paint, too heavy, wasn't watering down the paint, just that kind of stuff. It's just too heavy. Yeah. And I know the painting that I do now, it's still not exceptional, but it's good,
I painted my first GW models with Humbrol enamel paint. I know. I still have some of them because they're pretty much indestructible, but they're pretty blobby.
They're what happens to a Space Marine after they get hit by a burner.
If you're not going to do it now, you were never going to do it.
Yeah, if you're not going to do it now, you're never going to do it. And if you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it. Sometimes we invest in parts of the hobby and then discover they're not for us. That's the stuff you take and try and find someone who will love it and will put the time in.
Have a box of unpainted Space Marines. Who wants them?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So take some of that time. Sorry, take some of that time to make the hobby a little cheaper or a little easier for someone else to get into.
Cheaper in money or cheaper in time. Maybe they'll find the time to paint those miniatures or, read those books or play that game.
Yeah, so much reading. But okay. I think we're kind of done on this, are we?
I think so. We've covered it. We've nattered on a bit.
Yeah. Listen, it's we're as we said at the top, we are recording this at the end of January. Tough month after whatever holidays you take or Christmas or any of the other celebrations. It can be a tough month, and the weather generally never helps. And of course, no matter where you are at the moment, you're probably listening to this under some sort of constraint or curfew or lockdown, like ourselves. So we hope that we take this time to, go find the resources you're going to need for the rest of the year to enjoy your hobby. They don't have to cost you the earth. Maybe find someone who needs that little boost or that introduction and help them along with some of your own extensive collection. Or find some solace in the fact that solitude doesn't have to be unproductive. There's always aspects of the hobby to explore now that you have a little bit of time. And lastly, if you don't fall into any of those categories, if you are worked to the bone and you're worried and you're still cash poor, when things return to something like normal, all the rest of us are waiting for you. We are ready. We cannot wait to see the players again. We cannot wait to see the GMs again. We cannot wait to see our opponents in tournaments or friendly Monday night casual games again. We're looking forward to you. We're looking forward to probably the most important aspect of this hobby, which is the friendship and companionship that everybody can bring to it, no matter what's been happening this last while. Right. Okay, we're probably done here. So hopefully you've had a decent January.
If you have any of your own ideas for cost saving or doing things on the cheap, or if you have a group, like a trading group, whatever like that, on Facebook or Discord or that, feel free to post it to us either by email or head over to our own Discord and share it.
Absolutely. We can, you'll find links in the show notes. You'll find links where to find us. There'll be some show notes of some of the things we've talked about.
Depending on who the editor is.
Contact us. Depending on who edits. You can find us, you can contact us at party@theadventuringparty.net. But for now, this party's over.
Thanks for listening to The Adventure Party. You can find show notes and links to things we've mentioned at www.theadventuringparty.net and on our Facebook page. You can leave comments there, or talk to our Twitter account @AdventurePTY, or you can record a voice message at www.speakpipe.com/theadventureparty. We can also be contacted directly by email at party@theadventureparty.net. If you'd like to be in touch with the party all the time, come join our Discord server, link in the show notes. The Adventuring Party is released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike and Version 3 license.